I've been in the industry for 7 years now. I'm only 18 years old.
Gen Alpha is like when a baby giraffe just stands right up and knows how to walk. That's how they treat technology.
They've seen the coolest technology in the world. Hello, they're on social media. I had this 8 or 9-year-old come up to me. Can I show you this whole entire game thing I designed?
Wow.
As someone who has taught literally thousands of kids, we are most definitely not doomed.
Bianca, thank you so much for doing this. Do you mind starting out by introducing yourself and what you do?
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Bianca, but my hacker handle is BSCylab. I've been in the industry for 7 years now, which is a little crazy given that I'm only 18 years old. I've done a bit of everything. Blame that on my ADHD. I've done public speaking about various cybersecurity topics at all the biggest cybersecurity stages around the world. Think Black Hat, DefCon, DefCamp, Hope, etc. I also own a nonprofit called Girls Who Hack, where I teach online and in-person classes on all things intro to cybersecurity for middle school, high school age girls. And I run the youth track at DefCon called DC Next Gen, all while still being a college student. So yes, I'm a little stressed, but I'm very much blessed.
I think that's a great place to start. DefCon, what were you doing there this year? That's the first time that I became aware of you.
So I've been a DefCon attendee since I was very little. My dad also works in the field, so he wanted me to experience the amazing conferences and one of the biggest ones, DefCon. When I was younger, I used to go to this section of DefCon called Roots, the Roots Asylum. That was the youth track, and it was a room, and they had soldering, lockpicking, CTFs, all cool kid-themed things, right? And as I got older and COVID happened and such, they got rid of Roots, which made me really sad because now there's so many cool kids going to DefCon, not getting to experience something cool like Roots. So I went over to the head of DefCon, Dark Tangent himself, who I've been friends with for a while since he's seen my work, and I asked him if I could run the official DefCon youth track. And he's like, sure. It started off as DC Kids, and it was really small. But over the last 2 years, which were the last 2 official years we did it, we rebranded it to DC Next Gen, which stands for DefCon Next Gen. It is official DefCon property in the same way the DefCon CTF is, and we have a ton of cool things for the youth. Everything from CTFs of our own, talks, workshops, classes. And not only do we have what's in our own room, but we've collaborated with tons of different villages around the conference in order to host fun activities that the kids can do all around. So the aerospace village had a hack the airplane challenge, and it's Lego airplanes that the kids actually went and were able to hack to take control over it, which I think was so cool. And other villages did amazing things as well.
I think for a lot of people, when they think about hacking, they do picture people who are younger and more tech savvy. But upon hearing about DC Next Gen and what you guys were doing there for the first time, I learned that you guys skew incredibly young, that some of the attendees there are even 6 or 7 years old. Can you paint a picture of what the attendees look like, what their ages look like? And also, I'm very curious about the skill level that some of them have going in. Are we talking about savants? Are we talking about very entry level across the board?
It is such a mix, and that's what I found most fascinating. Because some of the kids, I can imagine, go up to their parents and are like, I really want to tag along. I want to go to, I learned all these cool skills. I want to try them out with this amazing community. Then other kids are just kind of dragged into it by their parents, right? Their parents work in the field, thinks it's cool, heard of DC Next Gen, and the kid who has no interest is coming as well. This does bring a lot of different ages. We've had everything from, like you said, 5, 6, even younger, all the way through till 18, which is, of course, our max age. But the most interesting part is that I haven't really seen level of technical ability line up directly with age. I've had high schoolers who are super interested in tech but don't know anything. And then I had this 8 or 9 year old come up to me with this crazy, insane program that he wrote. And he's like, "Can I show it to you? Can I show you this whole entire like game thing I designed?" And he's showing it to me, and it's things that I don't even understand myself. So it's an amazing mix. So all of our content is catered to everyone. We try to make sure that they all get different experiences and that those experiences line up with any interest or technical level they're at.
Right before we started the call, I was telling you that the Cybernews team was actually at DefCon this year working on a documentary project, which we'll be very excited to release in the coming months. Part of the questions that we asked a lot of the interview subjects that we interviewed was how the mindset of the DefCon attendee and of the hacker just more generally differed from the old school, like the folks who started DefCon 30 some years ago, to the new class of people, and the responses were really interesting. You are on the much younger side of the DEF CON attendees, right? I think you're maybe on the young end of Gen Z, is that correct? Or are you even earlier than that? What do you count yourself?
I'm Gen Z. I think the oldest Gen Z is in like the 20s. I'm 18, so I'm technically an adult, but still considered youthful in this field. Yeah.
So, interesting question for you. When you are 18, but you're also dealing with kids who are a decade younger than you, are you seeing a mindset difference between your generations as well? In terms of how the new generation, how very young kids approach problems versus how you do, how you see the internet and hacking versus how they do? Are there any differences that you're picking out?
Ooh, this is actually an interesting question because you can look at even a Gen Xer versus like Gen Alpha and clearly see the difference, right? But I grew up right when technology was really a thing, right? We had more advanced phones. We had some of the first iPhones, actual screens, flat screen TVs. But Gen Alpha, which is the youngest generation right now, and I have some Gen Alpha friends, and we had a lot of Gen Alpha attendees. They grew up with screens. I mean, everyone's heard the term iPad kid or Coco Melon kid. That is also very much true. But they just sort of naturally have more of an instinct on how to use technology. You know, I had to kind of figure it out as I was going, and I was learning and growing with it. They get this super complex, ethically complicated thing, and they just use it right away. Like my Gen Alpha cousin, he just uses Chat GPT for his homework, and he's like 10, right? So I think they're less fascinated actually by technology, and they're more inclined to use it as a tool than we were, which was how do we create this tool? Their mindset is how do we use this tool?
Wow. So you feel like Gen Alpha is like when a baby giraffe is born at the zoo and it just comes out and stands right up and knows how to walk. That's how they treat technology.
100%, that's what I feel like. And they know how to use this stuff. Even like babies who are handed phones at restaurant and such know how to use technology, sometimes even more than the adult themselves.
Wow.
It's pretty freaky.
And what is your perspective on technology on the younger end of the Gen Z spectrum? You know, I'm a millennial. I think I'm probably an older millennial. And I think I could lump in Gen X and definitely boomers into this bucket as well. I think there's a fair amount of cynicism when it comes to tech. And all you have to do is watch the legacy news cycle. Every time some new technology drops, you know, there's fear-mongering about this is it, this is the end, jobs are going away. How do Gen Z and Gen Alpha look at all of these new technologies that are being released? Are they cynical? Is that cynicism built in like it is from my generation? Because you seem very optimistic.
Personally, and this is just me, I am a very optimistic person. I see a lot of sides of things, and the ethics of technology has always fascinated me. But looking at this in a broader sense, so Gen Alpha and Gen Z, what I have seen, the patterns based on my friends, based on research, based on people I meet, is that we also have that cynicism you were talking about. We are very much like the world is doomed, everything's going to burn. But ours is more in the world is doomed, everything's going to burn, F it kind of mentality. We're like, we know that AI is probably going to replace a lot of jobs. We know that as a whole, we're getting dumber and we're all addicted to our phones. We're very well aware of that, even the younger ones that there are. I mean, think about it. Gen Alpha is on social media too. They see all the fear and they see all the wars and they see everything up close. I know when I was a kid, it was just my parents watching the news. Now it's them scrolling through YouTube shorts and then they see everything happening in Gaza. So we are very much aware of what's going on in the world. But we also have that mentality like, we're doomed. We might as well just do what we want and create what we can while we're still here.
Trying to figure out how I want to respond to that. On one hand, it's pretty inspirational. On the other hand, it's kind of punk rock of you, to have that attitude. It's probably the healthiest way to approach things.
Definitely. I mean, the punk rock attitude and mindset has always been the hacker mindset, right? You think even back to the movie Hackers or Sneakers, and it's that sort of guy in a basement, almost spy-like, ninja-like, fighting crime or committing crimes, etc. And now that world that was imagined by TV shows and movies, Terminator, things with AI taking over and such, that's not becoming a reality to like that scale, but look how far we've come. You can already assume we're going to grow exponentially in good ways. I mean, there's good things going on, but in bad ways too. So the only way to survive that is by having a mentality that matches that, which is one of positivity, knowing that there is so much amazing things being created, and then also one of, okay, things aren't that great. Let's stop pretending that everything's fine.
What are the things that you're seeing that seem to motivate the kids who are attending DC Next Gen? Is it curiosity? Is it breaking stuff? Is it the community? What is it that you see that drives the new generation of hackers?
I am so excited to answer this because as an educator in this space with Girls Who Hack and DC Next Gen, that has always been my sort of dilemma. How do you keep kids interested in something you're trying to teach them? Parents have this dilemma, school teachers have this dilemma, and here I am, a fellow kid, having this dilemma. So I have to think to myself, sort of think back like 3-4 years and think, what would I have wanted? And also still think, what do I want now? What works? What actually gets kids engaged? And what makes them want to participate? Everyone loves a good challenge and everyone loves to collaborate in some way or another, even the more introverted kids. So that's sort of where the idea came in mind to make a lot of the things we do hands-on and collaborative. It's one thing to put a kid in front of a computer and teach them how to script hello world, right? They see that and it's not cool to them. They've seen the coolest technology in the world. Hello, they're on social media. So how do we make them create something they haven't really seen before and have it be something they made, right? That's why a lot of our workshops and all of our collaborations with the other villages revolve around that exact idea. So for our ciphers and codes workshop, they actually have to break apart this little vial that has all of these amazing little code strips and then rearrange them to solve secret messages together. If you think about lockpicking, that's a cool skill that they may have kind of seen, but they haven't actually seen in practice and been able to do it, which they can do at DefCon. The hardware hacking village had so many cool hands-on things, and just by giving these sort of hands-on opportunities, they were very interested. And this actually leads me into the DC Next Gen badges. A cool part of DefCon, and almost everyone's favorite part, is of course the DefCon badge.
Of course.
And every other year, they have an electronic badge. We at DC Next Gen are crazy and love to stress ourselves out, so we make an electronic badge every single year. So far, we've only had 2 electronic badges because we've had 2 official years, but they have gotten some rave reviews. So I actually have them here to show to you now.
Okay, can I just sorry to interrupt? How did these things get designed? Did you work with a badge designer? Were you personally involved with the designing the concept? How did it come together? Because we interviewed Mar for our documentary, so I'm just curious.
The general idea and a lot of the details, the concepts at least, so the more non-technical things, were designed by me. Of course, I had help, and my whole entire DC Next Gen team also threw in some ideas, but I came up with the main concepts.
Very cool.
And then Braden Lane Studios. So Braden Lane, he is our official badge designer. He helps create the badges and creates my crazy dreams into reality, which is like some Willy Wonka type thing.
The suspense is killing me. I can't wait to see these things.
I know. I feel like I'm unveiling some secret product here. With electronic badges, especially since we're giving it to youth, I didn't want to just hand them something that blinks and looks cool but doesn't really do anything. And that is where we came up with, this is the official one, the DC Next Gen Explorer badge. It has a ton of cool features. It has IR, so IR transmitter and receiver if they'd like to program it with that. Every single one of the letters is a touch sensor that creates a whole little mini piano, and it correlates with the NeoPixel LED lights. It has a paper screen that not only, like a Kindle has, right?
Okay.
That not only has black and white, but red as well. So they have 3 fun colors to play with. And they can program it with Python, which actually correlated both with our CTF that we held, as well as the Intro to Python class, and then our Hack the Badge class. So
I'm sorry to interrupt, but what's the design of it? Like an amplifier, or is it a building, or what is it?
It's supposed to mimic a wall that has been graffitied, and these are the colors of that year's DefCon, which went with like the pink and purple theme. So I thought it was really cool because it's sort of like break the barriers.
What's the coolest thing that you saw somebody do with that? Like, did you see anyone customize it or put their own spin on it? What's some of the coolest stuff you saw people do?
There was a kid, and he was absolutely amazing. He actually made it so that to unlock his badge, you would actually have to put in a code via the different touch sensors. So a certain like little jingle that you would play out, and that would like unlock his badge. But what a lot of the kids did was they changed this little area to say like their hacker handle that they came up with, so that when they met people, they would be like, oh yeah, that's my hacker handle right there on my badge.
Cool.
The DC33 badge, I wanted to change the concept a lot. I noticed a few things that I originally didn't like about most electronic badges, but including ours. Especially when you're smaller, wearing a badge around your neck was so annoying. It was so horrible. I had to always shorten the lanyard, and then it'd always be like clunky and hit with the other badges. And so I thought, what about a fashion wearable badge? And that's where we came up with the DC33 wristband badge, which you can see here. And it's a wristband.
Oh, that's rad.
The theme of DC33 was accessibility. So making hacking accessible to everyone, whether you were colorblind, if you had visual impairments, if you had audio impairments, no matter what it was, this badge, you could still use it and still interact with it. And you could wear it on your wrist as a wristband with a Velcro strap so it would fit you no matter what. And if you didn't want to wear it around your wrist, you could just attach it to your bag or hold it other ways. And it has different capabilities than the previous year's badge. You look here. This is both an IR transmitter and receiver. And then these 2 buttons are how you interact with it. What the youth would do is go around to all the villages. Once they completed a challenge, then the villagers, like the people at the village, would give them points onto their badge. Or they could go up to another DC Next Gen attendee and exchange points together. It showed up both as color, so you could see the different colors, and also as sound. So here's mine turned on. That's my little identity. And if you hold it down,
and is that a melody you created?
We decided to pick a lot of classic melodies that a lot of kids would recognize. So we took little clips from like Disney songs and like the Harry Potter theme song and such. And I hadn't picked one for myself. All of us goons at the village got one of these badges. So I let the badge designer, lovely as he is, Pick out a song for me. And he decided to give me a Rickroll.
Is that what we just heard? That was the Rickroll that you just played?
That was the Rickroll, yes.
That's funny. I love this mission that seems to be a through line of a lot of the different projects that you take on, where you are creating these community meetups for kids, for girls. By all accounts right now, we're entering into a world, and I've actually heard you say this in interviews on other podcasts, where a lot of people who are involved in the cybersecurity hacking space are largely introverts, of which you say you are not. You are one of the few who are not. Why did you have the confidence that these different ventures you were going into would work?
2 reasons. Reason number 1, opposites attract, and I've had a gazillion quadrillion introverted friends. I seem to absolutely cling to them. Then when I started going to cybersecurity conferences, I would walk up, usually to adults who were like working on their computers, and just start up conversations with them. Hashtag extrovert vibes. And what I noticed with a lot of introverts is that they don't socialize because they don't objectively want to. It's because fear is holding them back or general insecurity. And of course, that's not about everyone who's introverted. Some people like their personal space, and I mean, I do too. But especially when they try to put themselves out there in this kind of setting, like a conference or a class, they do want to interact with others, just don't really know exactly how to or how to properly. So by sort of encouraging interactions that come more naturally, such as pairing people up in classes or sort of calling them out more casually to agree or disagree with me, or creating something like this badge, which encourages them to walk up to each other and be like, hey, can I get your points, makes going up to someone and having a natural interaction that much more natural than just expecting kids to go walk up to each other and be like, hi, my name is blank, wanna be friends? Which the more extroverted kids will do, but not so extroverted kids aren't as inclined to do so. But if you have a badge there, or if you have a cipher challenge they have to solve together there, then they have some mutual thing to talk about or relate to.
Speaking of community, I understand that you were recently inducted as a member into a certain really cool hacking group. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Definitely. If you're listening to this and you're interested in cybersecurity, you have probably heard about the cult of the dead cow. And if you haven't yet, go look it up. You will be absolutely amazed. So the cult of the dead cow is one of the oldest hacktivist groups out there. The members are super amazing, influential people who have changed the tech landscape over the years. They are the OG hackers on the internet. But one of the things they stand for has always been helping the hacker community, making it safer, more ethical, better, and bringing people together. And they saw my work doing just that with Girls Who Hack, DC Next Gen, The Next Generation, and also all the points I've been making in all of my talks and all of my conversations that I've been having. Because I think the political side and the ethical side of cybersecurity is just as important as the technical side. And they're like, we're going to snatch you up. And I'm like, you're going to what? So, I was at the official Root party. Root is another great hacktivist group that I'm also a part of. And every year at DefCon, they have a little get together where all of us go and meet up and get to chit chat. And while I was there, one of those members, Metas4, my bestie, she came up to me with this little piece of paper that had the CDC DefCon itinerary. And I'm reading over it, and it's like, this member's doing this member's doing this. She said she just wanted me to read it over. And then I look at the very bottom, and it says BSI Lab, in parentheses, CDC, and then it says DC Next Gen. And I'm like, do you know what that says? And she's like, yep. And I'm like, actually, yep. And I'm like, are you for real? She said, yep. I think I had to confirm it like 4 times. Then me being me, I broke down into tears instantly and fell to the ground. I actually collapsed to the ground, and I went and I hugged her leg, and everyone's applauding and stuff. And I'm like trying to catch my breath. Then they took me outside for the initiation ceremony, which is like top secret and stuff, which was absolutely insane. There was a lot of chanting. Very funny. But now that I'm a part of the group, I hope to help continue on their mission and carry out the name for years and years to come.
I understand that part of the ethos of CDC is kind of a chaotic good. Is that true?
Very much true. They love to get into trouble.
When I hear you talk about your many different ventures and your personality, you seem like a very ordered, organized kind of person. Have you seen that ethos of CDC, of chaotic good, kind of affect the way that you think with your other ventures?
Very much so, yes. So, I am as organized, as meticulous, as thoroughly planned as you can possibly be. Blame that on my OCD, blame that on my upbringing, blame it on the fact I like things nice and orderly, but that's the way I have always approached things. I mean, my closet is color-coded. That's how insane I am. But I think there needs to be more chaotic good, sort of like talking almost like it's Dungeons and Dragons here. But there needs to be more chaotic good in the world because there is so much bad happening, and sometimes you can only create positive chaos to offset the bad chaos. And they've sort of taught me that over the years. As I mentioned, I'm very interested in the political and ethical side of cybersecurity. Whenever I speak about it, I do my best to have no political affiliation. I state facts and I state issues that are affecting both parties. And they have given me the courage to say my opinions and state these facts all around the world. I mean, I've talked about election security everywhere from the US to Romania to Saudi Arabia. Think of it, I've discussed it. And even when I was like 12 or 13-ish, I got invited to a congressional hearing on election security that I got to go and witness as well, where I met a ton of different congressmen and women. And without the CDC and their general influence showing me that you can be good, but the only way to create real good in the world is by creating an uproar. You know what I mean? So I've been trying to create a positive uproar in the world. Because if we're all sad and we're all in on ourselves, watching the news and being like, well, we're effed, you know? Which maybe we are, but there's also a chance that if we try to F the world back, we can offset everything. So by changing this and actually having conversations about how we can change and how we can make good, then real change will happen.
One of the things that I have liked witnessing in recent years is the shifting of political ideologies, specifically within Gen Z, so that they don't conform to just these neat lines, which I think they kind of have in the past with my generation and older. You know, if you are a conservative, you believe all one thing down the party line, same thing with liberal. How do you make sure in your activism that you're able to chart your own path, that you don't fall victim, to just maintaining one strict ideology down a party line based on the influences that come in? How do you chart your own path?
That's a great question because it's sort of that dilemma. How do you decide what you want to decide without actually being directly influenced by someone or some party? And a lot of what I learned about that actually comes just from social interactions being a girl, right? A lot of the rumors that you hear, like girls gossip and stab each other behind the back, is true. Also with guys, also with anyone. That's part of being human. That's part of having friends. But I've sort of taken that into account to be like, there's a lot of information out there. There's a million sides to each story. There's not always black and white. It's not even a gray area. It's a whole rainbow, right? So the best way that I've combated sort of falling to a certain mindset is by listening to what everyone has to say and questioning things constantly. It's easy to turn our brains on autopilot and just be like, okay, they're presenting facts and they're backing it up with stories. This must be true. Though it might be partially true or it is objectively true, there's a lot of truth out there. There's also a lot of lies out there. So by having this critical thinking mentality where you're like, why do I think this? Why do I feel like I should think this? why am I feeling personally affected by this? Every time I hear some sort of opinion, especially if it's political, no matter what sort of side it's on, no matter where in the world, I'm able to actually see, what does Bianca think? Not what does Bianca the friend think, not what does Bianca the daughter think, not what does Bianca the public speaker think. What does Bianca think, and how can she show that to everyone else?
We need to put a chapter there and have people re-listen to that over and over again. I think that's a very healthy way to approach this problem. Is there someone that you look at as an idol, an archetype, someone whose career, or at least trajectory, is someone that you would like to emulate in your life?
There's this amazing woman. Her name is Reshma Saujani, and she started Girls Who Code. She has done a lot of amazing things in her life. And when I was around 13 years old, I started Girls Who Hack at 14. I read her book called Brave, Not Perfect. In this book, she explores the fact that girls are taught to be perfect, while boys are taught to be brave. Think about it. It starts at the monkey bars on the playground. Little Timmy falls. His dad is like, "Oh, buddy, come on, get up. Give it a nice, good try again." Meanwhile, mom with little Susie says, "No, Susie, you're going to get dirt on your dress. No, no, pull your skirt down. Pull your skirt down. You don't want the boys to see your undies. No, no, be careful. Let's just go on the swings instead. Oh, you need to watch your brother." And there's so much pressure. I mean, think about it. A guy goes on a date. He's like, "I think I remembered to put deodorant on." Usually a girl goes on a date. She's like, "Oh my God, I have a blackhead on the left corner of my nose. This is it. The world is over." And that mentality is instilled in us. Even if we have great parents or even if we have great friends, it's in all of our culture. It is ingrained in there. And she explores how this is so problematic and how she combated it herself. She's scared of the water. She went surfing. She's like, "No, I'm going to face this problem." She knew nothing about coding, but saw that girls should learn more about computers and started Girls Who Code. So whenever I'm scared or whenever I'm thinking like, I can't do this, I don't want to do this, there's too many factors in play, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, whatever excuse I want to make, I sort of think back to her and then back to a lot of other people, and I'm like, just starting is the hard part. There's a million reasons why not to do something, but if you have one core good one and you just go after that, that's enough.
So is that what scares you the most, just starting a new project, or what scares you?
Ooh, okay, let's have a little therapy session here.
We can take it that way, I guess, yeah.
Which I don't mind. What scares me the most and what's been stopping me a lot is, of course, that fear. I am a generally very anxious person. I've spoken on literally hundreds of stages in front of thousands of people sometimes. And every single time before I go on, I get so nervous, I want to throw up. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. So just getting on stage is so difficult. Just opening Gmail to go and respond to all the emails is difficult. Not because the actual action of starting is difficult, but because you know just how much time and energy you're going to have to invest as you're going into something. So sometimes I have to literally pick myself up and yeet myself into something to actually get started. Because if I sit and I muster and I cook in my own little pool of sadness, I'm not going to get anywhere. But if I actually just like from my bed on my phone, open my email app and get the courage to actually send that person an email back, then I'll be like, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
I agree with that. Sometimes starting is the hardest part. And then once you just break down that wall, things just have a momentum of their own. And if you're a smart person, you can handle it. And I've also found that all of the most fulfilling events and the most success I've ever found in my life always began when I put myself in an uncomfortable position to start. Every single time.
So true. Then you get a bigger dopamine reward because you scroll on your phone, you see a cute Instagram reel of a puppy dog. That's a little bit of dopamine. But you study for hours and you finally finish the test. Even if you end with a B rather than an A like you originally wanted, you're like, it's over. I tried so hard. I put so much into it. You feel that pride, that you can call back onto for the rest of your life.
This is a little bit of a hard turn, but I want to talk about the story that you've been tracking with the new Albanian AI minister. What is it, Delia? You want to introduce the story and talk about that for a second?
So Delia, which
Okay.
I also might be mispronouncing. I've heard different news reporters say it differently. I'm sure there's a correct pronunciation. She is an AI minister chatbot, sort of a AI tool that is being used to help people who go onto the official Albanian government website find documents and do some things. And she has quite a few different purposes. Albania is suffering from a corrupt government. Welcome to the real world, I guess. They're really struggling specifically with ministers and other government officials being bribed by money, other power, even blackmailed. And their argument for having her on the team is that she can't be bribed. She can't be paid to do something else. She can't be held at gunpoint. She's non-existent, right? So there's a lot of good reasons why someone would say, let's have AI in politics. Generally, one of the biggest arguments is that it's unbiased. To some degree, kind of, but they also aren't disclosing what model or what models she's based off of, what data is influencing her. Because you can't just create an AI from nothing. You can't just spawn it from your brain, right? You actually need to give it information to begin with. And what kind of information are they using? Probably not the most just and fair one. Like, why don't we have AI lawyers and judges and police officers and stuff? Because if we were to take all these old cases that have already existed, there's already so much prejudice and other systemic issues into it that if we try to put it in, then it's just going to get even grosser.
Not to mention hallucinations. I mean, anyone who's used an LLM knows that whatever it is, once every 9 times or 10 times or something, the answer comes back and you have to be like, no, ChatGPT, that's not right. And it goes, oh, yeah, totally. You're right. That wasn't right. Let me try again. Like on the floor of Parliament to hear that? That would be crazy.
Yeah, no. I've made this claim before all the time when I talk about elections having to do with being technical, right? I'm 100% someone who stands for like paper ballots, paper elections, paper.
Wow.
You can't hack a piece of paper. There's other things you can do. There's no such thing as a perfectly safe system, but you can hack a machine. And at the end of the day, she is a piece of equipment. And you can alter a piece of equipment, right? So I'm sure a lot of people are going to start targeting her. I'm hoping she's well monitored and well looked after, but at the end of the day, nothing is ever 100% secure. And I can't sit here and be like, she's very secure. She's not, because they're not disclosing the information of how they made her, which on one sense makes sense, because why would they? That could make things more vulnerable. But on another side of things, how do we know she's not biased? How do we know she wasn't created by someone who is corrupt? How do we know she isn't being updated by someone who's corrupt? How do we know someone's not giving her new information that corrupts everything that they don't notice until it's too late? There's so many different factors here that while AI can be used for good reasons, and I have another story for that too, it's also very, very gross once you put it into a position that it's not ready to be in.
With regards to paper ballots, that really surprised me that you took it there. That's really interesting, especially with your past work and the time that you've put in to election integrity and things like that. That's super interesting. That's the conclusion you came to. And it reminded me, a little while ago, I interviewed for this podcast a woman named Dr. Katie Paxton Fear. She works at the intersection of cybersecurity and AI. And she said something really interesting. She said, in a world where AI can be trained to beat CAPTCHAs, defeat biometrics with video and things like that, the new security protocol is going to go back to like real world. It's going to go back to like secret handshakes and things like that. Sometimes as we move forward with technology, the solutions regress at the same time because they have to. Do you agree with that?
100 gazillion %. The top computer vulnerability has always been, and I can definitely claim will probably always be, humans. Because you can make any system as secure as humanly possible, but when there's humans using it, then it becomes insecure. Everything down to even social engineering. Think about it. Vishing attacks, scam callers, all of these people are still getting away with the same things, even if it's in a different sense. Deep fakes, even deep fakes of like voices, audio, of people capturing audio from like their kids and pretending their kids are kidnapped, and all of these other things going on. It's the same exact solutions to the same exact problems. The problems have just been updated as technology is being updated.
You mentioned a moment ago that there was another story that related to the last one. I want to make sure that we touch on that before we move on.
When I was in high school, I was homeschooled for high school just because I had so much work going on and so much travel with work.
Sorry to interrupt. I was homeschooled in middle school for a year or two. Yeah, we have that in common.
Homeschooling, when done right, is really good and really beneficial, but it really takes the right kid and the right parents and the right mindset to actually make it work. So would I recommend homeschooling to people? Yes, but there's a lot that goes into it. When I was homeschooled, I used this amazing platform called Khan Academy to help teach myself different concepts and stuff. And I owe it a lot of credit because, I mean, I graduated high school at 16, got my high school diploma at 16, and started college at 16. And I think the reason I was able to complete high school in like 2 years or whatever it was in big part to Khan Academy. They have a lot of amazing, super free resources on everything from history to biology to grammar to art studies, etc. And I watched a TED talk of Khan, the creator of Khan Academy. He talked about his mission, his goals, how he started, etc. But then he launched something new called Khanmigo. And this was one of the first things I ever read or learned about AI, right? Because I kind of heard about AI before. Watching this TED talk is when I really learned about it. And I think it's the reason why I don't have such a negative outlook on AI in general. Khanmigo is also like a chatbot assistant that helps the learner using Khan Academy further learn the subject. So it can ask Khanmigo questions, it can ask follow-up questions, it could ask for better resources that Khanmigo can point to. But what's really cool is when the kid is taking a test on Khan Academy or a quiz, they can ask Khanmigo questions, and Khanmigo will never give them direct answer. So the kid can ask, oh, this question is saying, when was the document of blah, blah, blah written? Khanmigo will not give the kid, oh, it was written blah, blah, blah. It will kind of call back other things, play around ideas, ask it what it thinks, etc., and act as an actual teacher and do what a real teacher would do interacting with that student. And that opens up a whole conversation about AI in education, which I won't completely go into for sake of time and such. But what I will say is that this is an amazing tool, especially since the kid to teacher ratio at schools is so misplaced and so unbalanced. There's not enough teachers for the amount of kids there are. With Girls Who Hack, I never have classes bigger than 20 when I'm teaching, because that personal connection between you and a student is what really makes learning happen. So by having this AI chatbot act as an extra teacher, this helps kids learning home alone who don't have access to a teacher or don't get enough time with a teacher like they need, or maybe are just introverted and too scared to ask a teacher a question. The ability to interact with something that teaches like a teacher would.
Yeah, I love that. Rather than telling the kid what to think, it kind of teaches them how to think. You know, people talk about things like the Socratic method, the scientific method. I think you might have brought up earlier, you know, going back to first principles when examining your belief system and things like that. That's super important, you know, especially in an age of AI where it seems to be taking on more and more of those responsibilities. How can it facilitate and help while turning around and helping the person get stronger and smarter at the same time?
Exactly, yeah. So instead of a kid going to it and saying, write me a presentation about uh, this time period. And then, like normal ChatGPT or something it would just spit everything back to them. It would be like, well, what are some of the things you learned about? Let's compile them into a list. Oh, maybe you should add in these things and sort of be a partner to them rather than just, tell them what to think and how to do it.
But the cynical millennial part of my brain hears that and goes, that sounds like a great tool, but you know that right next to Conmigo is going to be the iPad or the laptop that has ChatGPT on it. And the kid's going to be like, yeah, go ahead and write this thing for me with, a little piece of this good information that I created and now extrapolate on that and I'm going to turn in my homework. Or at least the kids who don't have as sincere a dedication to learning and self-improvement as you do, maybe.
Though that is true, and 100% kids are kids. Kids will cheat. Kids will go and find the easy way out. As long as you provide options, they won't immediately just go to the worst thing always. As a kid, and maybe because I'm kind of a goody two-shoes, I never cheated. I was never inclined to cheat, anything like that. I would have loved that tool when I was younger. And I know there's other people who would have also loved that tool. And things like Chromebooks or iPads that kids use at schools, which schools provide, are already super locked down from exploring these websites like ChatGPT and stuff. So when they're at home doing their homework, of course, they'll just pull their phone out and use ChatGPT. But what about when they're taking an online test in class? The teacher can only help so many people raising their hand. And when you're in a classroom, no one else is raising their hand. You're too scared to raise your hand and ask the teacher. So if you have an application like Conmigo there, during the test that you're taking, it can help you really think through things without you being embarrassed. And by using this tool, you ultimately create your presentation using Conmigo, and your presentation is done, you'll feel better about yourself than if you just ask ChatGPT to do it. So if they use this tool once and see how good they feel afterwards, they don't have that guilt of I cheated myself, there's a chance I'll be caught, then they can actually have some pride in their work, even though they were using a tool to assist them. Because at the end of the day, AI is a tool, right? Any tool can be used for a good reason or a bad reason. The proper reason it's made for, or a negative reason it's not made for.
Before we close this thing out, is there anything else that you want to talk about before we finish?
I want to end with a little statement for everyone, especially since I'm assuming the audience is going to be millennials, Gen X, etc. Relax, we're not doomed. Relax, we're not doomed. Take a deep breath. You probably see the worst of the worst on social media. You probably meet the worst of the worst at work or talking to people. But I can say, as someone who has taught literally thousands of kids from every age to every place around the world to every technical ability, that we are most definitely not doomed. Kids are still kids. Is there more corruption? Yes. Do they have more tools and more knowledge? Also, yes. And just being able to teach them these things and show them the options they have, especially the young girls, that is the sole reason why I'm not here curled up in a ball crying because the world is ending. Have faith in the next generation, but also get your crap together and make sure that the world is as good a place for us as it possibly can be. And the way you can do that is by donating to Girls Who Hack. If you go to girlswhohack.com/donate, you can help support my amazing mission teaching young girls, especially the ones in underprivileged areas, all about essential cybersecurity topics, including personal online safety and privacy, which are very important skills as well.
That's how you do a CTA right there. Bianca, I think if more young people were as driven and optimistic as you, us old folks would have no problem believing in the future at all. You're very inspirational to hear your story, and you make me optimistic for the future. I look forward to tracking your many ventures here, and I hope we get to catch up again soon.
We definitely will. Thank you for having me.
Bye. If you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did and you want more enlightening, inspirational, curious conversations in your YouTube feed, make sure to like and subscribe because we got lots more coming your way, not to mention all of the other documentaries, explainers, news content, and other fantastic stuff that we got on the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope we see you in the next video.